Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the extra time segment for a game where we needed extra time to get through. It was a 2-1 win against Rotherham in the FA Cup third round. Not what we were hoping for, really, with the exception of the fact that we actually are in the hat. It was very, very difficult. We made hard work of this. I'm joined by Terry, Owen, and Mike from the Unholy Trinity Podcast. I'll start with you on this one, Mike. How did we make such hard work of this?
We started the game pretty well, didn't we? We got an early goal, and you think, okay, this is going to be a bit of a breeze. This, and I think maybe the players got into that mindset as well. We look quite crisp and sharp, and Gordon started the game quite well, looked lively, and he just thought, yeah, this is ours. And it was almost as if they just became too relaxed. And we allowed Rotherham back into the game after about 15, 20 minutes, and they then made it a cup tie. And it was down to our sort of inability in a way to just move the game forward and score a couple more goals and capitalise on being the Premier League side. And we've seen it, haven't we? We've seen it in years gone by. And we've said it a few times this season when players are brought in and given a chance, and they're not particularly taking that chance. So. We need a squad of players without sort of jumping too far forward that can compete. So when someone is out injured, suspended, whatever it might be, those players can come in, and it's like for like. The quality is not impacted. But yesterday it sort of showed again that we're lacking in certain areas, and maybe the mindset of certain players who are on the fringes isn't quite right.
Yeah, certainly. Owen, will come to you because when as Mike's saying, there's a bit of an issue in certain areas in terms of squad depth and the quality that we have maybe in the reserves who came in for this game. With regard to the midfield, Tom Davis and Andre Gomez had stinkers yesterday from what I witnessed. So it always comes down to, I'll have to ask Owen what he thought about that performance from the midfielders.
They were both pretty abject. I think Decore came on and sort of, he did win us the game, didn't he? Because he got us the goal and whatnot. Now, the pair of them in midfield were embarrassed all game, to be fair, I thought, because Rotherham's midfield, I said before the game in the preview show that Rotherham won't sort of come and surprise you, but they are a well-motivated group of players, and they'll give everything, and that's exactly what they did. So that just motivation and will and desire to be on the pitch and do well.
That is actually it, though. It is.
Them two on the pitch, they've just made them look like idiots. I think we won the game, and that's fine. We're through the next round, so that's the positive you take from it. But I think we'd be talking a lot longer about the performances of them two in the midfield if we hadn't got through yesterday, because it was as bad as they've ever been, especially Gomez, and part of that game was just dreadful. But
Shambles.
Yeah, we have to take the positives ultimately and say we're through in the next round, and it shows what an important player Abdoulaye Doucouré is for us getting on the.
He has been a few bad performances here and there. He's been absolutely excellent this season. He's been a great addition to this team.
Yeah, I think we need more players like Doucouré, just that sort of engine room in midfield, and just with natural sort of pace to get about the pitch. I just don't think any of them two in midfield have that. I think obviously Arland is quite mobile, but the rest of them are just lack mobility.
Yeah, those two in particular, honestly, it was awful to watch. And I think for me, that's should set the alarm bells ringing. Like we said, what Rotherham players said in the build-up to this game. They're a well-motivated bunch. Where's the motivation in these players, in Andre Gomez and Tom Davis? Where's the motivation?
Rotherham knew that there was a huge quality gap on paper, at least, between the Everton team and them. Sort of just hard work and just giving it everything, and it nearly paid off for them on another day. It would have. I think they were without Ladapo up front as well. Maybe if he was on the pitch, they would have found another moment. But we need to look at that performance in more detail rather than the fact that we'd won, because I think that there's some issues there.
Yes, some pretty serious issues. I think the issue for me is the motivation of. I think I'll go on a bit about this, but I always question the motivation of some of our players when you saw some of these players raise the game when we had fans in the stadiums again for that December period. And since we've not been allowed fans in, we saw it at the West Ham game and we saw it here where these players don't seem to be able to G themselves up for a game. And that's a real concern. These professional footballers, like, should have some elements of motivation to go out and win a football match. It's what you're doing for a living.
I just feel like they got the early goal, Everton, Tosin scored, and then from then on in, I just think they thought they had the game won, and it never works out like that, especially against a team like Rotherham who just rolled the sleeves up and give everything. So a learning curve on our part.
Certainly. Terry, what did you make of this? Like, what could we have like done better? Really, I mean, is there an ability problem? There shouldn't be against the side of the league below, but
I don't know. It was bad all round, wasn't it? Like usually, you can point at the fringe players and go they were terrible, and they were. But even like first team players were awful. Like I didn't think Keane and Godfrey, who've been really good this season, were very good either. Coleman was terrible. Dean and James, Luca Dean and James Rodriguez. I'm a little bit reluctant to point the finger at them. They were both pretty bad, but they've been out for weeks and weeks and weeks. So they're coming back and they're getting some minutes under their belt. So it doesn't mean that, they weren't playing badly. They were, but they've at least got an excuse.
And in fairness, James did set up the winning goal with a good pass.
Well, that's James, isn't it? Like, he didn't have a good game, but he still got, like a massive contribution to the game. But I'm telling you, the substitutions are what changed the game, Rotherham's and ours, because Rotherham were taking off their players who were giving us the hard time. They took off Crooks, took off that, is it Olasunde?
Olasunde, he's a very, very good player.
Yeah, they started taking them players off towards the end, and I was like, what are they doing? They're taking off the players who are causing us the most issue. And then obviously we brought on Decore, as Owen touched on. It just looked like a school match where you brought on a lad from one of the older years and he was just a cut above everyone else. And we say this all the time when we play badly and win. If we don't have Carlo, we don't win that game because the subs, I think, changed the game completely. So we're through to the next round. And I said last night that, well, all these, every time you win a trophy, there's always this story that they tell years later, like, oh, the worst round was the first one. We nearly went out to some lower league team. And we nearly did go out to this lower league team. Because
when we last won it in '95, I think we needed a replay to get past Bristol City.
But we need to be a lot better if we're going to do anything in this cup, because if Rotherham would have had more quality, if we were playing one of the better championship teams, we'd have lost yesterday. It was the exact scenario that the lads pointed to. That I was the same. Scored that first goal, and I actually turned to missus and went, this is just a case of how many goals we're going to score here, because these don't look like they can live with us. We're well better. And then obviously fate went, oh yeah, saying that, you cheeky get. And then fired to make us absolutely dreadful for the rest of the game. So, yeah, I don't know. We were lucky to get through, and a different opposition on the day, or a different manager in our dugout, and we would have easily been out the cup again.
Yeah, definitely. I think Marco Silva loses that game without a shadow of a doubt.
We lost to Millwall, who could only put set pieces in the box. I mean, let's be realistic here and just we've lost them. I've seen Everton lose that exact game 5 times in the last 10 years.
There you go. At least we come out on the right side. That's the real positive. And it was 2 well taken goals as well. Cenk Tosun scored one and scored another one that maybe should have counted. What would you take on the VAR decision?
If it's marginally offside, it's still offside.
Yeah. His spray on air was offside, wasn't it? Like, I have no problem with marginal VAR decisions because they go in your favour as well. I mean, I do, but I've just accepted the reality that they're going to happen. But the annoying thing is that if we'd have been at their ground, it wouldn't have been any VAR. It's like Millwall scored an offside goal against us. Oh, sorry, there's no VAR. Exact same.
Handball, the Millwall game. Remember that?
Yeah, was when Nick was telling them to turn the telly off, so the referee didn't see.
Why? Yeah, exactly. You know, the Millwall manager saying stop putting the handball on the screen. Like, you shouldn't pick and choose what games have got. It's like saying, oh, we're not having linesmen in some of these games because the pitch is too narrow. So we're just going to have a referee for one game in the third round. We're going to have it with linesmen on the other. You can't have it mix and match, and you need to have it.
What also irritates me is that we didn't play well on the occasion, but we could still be in the League Cup if we had VAR. You know, Cavani elbowed Gary Mina in that game, and probably should have been sent off. But there was no VAR in the League Cup, but there is in the FA Cup. How does that work?
But the VAR comes in the League Cup and the semi-final stage. I think it's a mess. It's just stop picking and choosing.
It's a farce. Why are they doing it? Like,
I know.
Just level everything up. If you're going to do it in the cup competitions in the Premier League grounds, do that in the other cup. I think the problem, of course, is I think the FA Cup and the League Cup's operated by the EFL and the FA Cup's operated by Shohad of the FA. Like, they obviously have different stances on what they want to do, but it needs to be aligned to have some elements of fairness across the board in English football. And
just inconsistent.
You know, I know some of these stadiums, like in the lower leagues, aren't equipped to have VAR, but you know, for the purpose of an FA Cup tie, you think the FA could, like, you know, even for a one-off occasion, fund something. But
my problem is with that, though, they're not going to put them in the lower league stadiums. They can't sort of get that sort of going. Just don't put them in the Premier League ones either. Then you can't just say Man United are home to Rennes, so that game can have a VAR, but Luton versus Bristol City in the same round, they can't have it. It's just it just goes back to this sort of double standard thing that is just all reeking around football at the moment. Not for a long time, but at the moment in particular.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's getting worse. The double standards in English football, it's just farcical. I mean, the amount of things that people are allowed. Like, we have our game called off because City have a few COVID tests, and then Villa have a ton of COVID tests, but still have to play Liverpool.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Sorry, mate. I think it's unprecedented times, of course, in regards to the COVID side of things, but that's an easy thing to get right, really, isn't it? You know, in terms of the rules for two different competitions, and to be fair, the rules in the same competition, because the Premier League do whatever they want as well. You know, it's easy to get it right, isn't it? You know, without going off script almost there, the City game, I was delighted he got called off. I didn't want our players mixing with the side, which
absolutely.
But the point is, then when you then see other teams being forced to play, you've had more positive tests. Go back to West Ham earlier in the season. They arrived at the ground. At one point, Moyes arrived and got told he had a positive test. Him and a couple of players, and they had to leave the ground. But the game still went ahead. You know, it's not difficult to get this kind of thing consistent across the board, and that's where I think, you know, same with the VAR. 9 times out of 32 using VAR in the FA Cup, which is just ridiculous. You know, it's not difficult to have consistency. So then people can't moan about it. You know, I think the toss and go was onside anyway, because if you look at where they draw the line's wrong. You know, and it just doesn't make sense. In the picture that I saw, it was taken after it left Hammers' foot anyway. So it just, you know, it doesn't make sense. And like you say, we play at their ground with through, aren't we? And we wouldn't then probably, it wasn't a great performance, but in my eyes, we did enough to get through because that goal should have really stood it. I mean, it's all ifs and buts, but, you know, as you say, the call for consistency has been there for so long, and it seems to be getting worse as opposed to getting better, that's for sure.
I think, for me, the problem is, I think the Premier League, FA, FL, whatever, all need to come out and have a COVID policy where, say, if up to 10 players and staff all together test positive, then the game gets called off. If it's not reached that milestone, you find another way. But
there needs to be a common sort of a common ground of what
precisely,
constitutes postponement and what constitutes the game going ahead, because it's the same with the VAR. Who decides that only the Premier League grounds can have it?
And,
I mean, who sits down from that?
The VAR will decide, you know, the VAR will decide who it wants to win at the end of the day. Like, you know, whoever the VAR, if he doesn't fancy Everton, you know, getting through at the first attempt, you know, without extra time, they'll decide that. Because obviously Mike's made a good point there, where it appears that the ball's already left Hammers' boot when Tosson's offside.
You can draw the lines up at all different points. It's either way, it's so close. I just if they're doing clear and obvious errors, and that's fine, but that isn't clear and obvious, really, is it? That's the sort of standard definition of what the VAR is supposed to do.
Clear and obvious errors using Microsoft Paint to decide offside decisions.
Yeah.
But either way, we got through anyway. And I mean, was there any real, like, what would you say was the real positive? Who was the positive for Everton today? Oh, yesterday. Yesterday, sorry. I forget what day it is, mate.
Everton, I'll go Yerry Mina. When he came on, he put in some important blocks.
Yeah, Yerry Mina did too well.
I thought Robin Olsen did that quite well with their set pieces as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put some set pieces in that you'd probably sweat on if Pickford went to catch it.
Or it was Silva's own or marking.
Oh, thank God for that.
I'd probably say the same. Olsen was good. Mina was good. Mina's had quite a big turnaround in form since the start of the season. He's got back to his level now. Decore was good, and they didn't play well, but I'm glad to see James and team back in the Premier League games. We're going to need them because when they're playing well, we're a different outfit. So I'd rather them play poorly in this game where we weren't punished and be better for the Premier League games, put it that way.
Yeah, certainly. And with that in mind, you know, it's a quick turnaround. I think is it Tuesday we're playing Wolves or Wednesday? Tuesday, bloody hell! Like, you know, it's not much of a rest, but we're gonna have to see what happens. But anyway, we'll leave this game at that. I mean, tough game. You know, we didn't make it easy for ourselves, but when do we ever make it easy for ourselves? We get through. Everton 2, Rotherham 1. Let us know your opinions on this game. What we could have done better, you know, how you feel about us potentially going on a cup run, what needs to improve. I think there's plenty that needs to improve, but let us know anyway. Drop us a comment, give this video a like and subscribe. More content, and until next time, thank you for tuning in on the Toffee Blues.